The Coalition for a Healthy Riverview held a rally at Riverview Hospital in Coquitlam on Sunday, April 30th. Provincial, municipal, and federal politicians, community leaders, and local citizens were in attendance to offer their support for the Coalition's initiative to have the Riverview lands reopened and dedicated to being an integral solution to support mental health and the mental health opioid crisis in our communities and throughout BC. Tri-Cities Community TV was in attendance to catch the emotion and energy of this event.
So I would like to briefly introduce my chair of the Coalition for a Healthy Riverview. Are you ready? It's happening. So this is Nancy Furness. She's amazing, and she's been our fearless leader right from the get-go, ground up. So come on up, Nancy. She's going to talk about our coalition.
Sorry, I'm short, so I have to take that off there. I would just like to start by saying a huge thank you to each and every one of you for coming out here today and standing on these lands. It's really important that you're here. I'd also like to acknowledge each and every member of the coalition. We have the most amazing group of people. We're a team, and each and every one of them has worked really hard. I would also like to say that we are a coalition, and our goal is to retain the publicly owned Riverview lands as a center of modernized excellence for mental health, maintained within the existing arboretum and the surrounding green space. So as many of you are probably aware, the Riverview issue is very complex, and adding to that complexity is the fact that there is a land claim made by the Coquitlam First Nations. Now, we do acknowledge that we're on unceded Coast Salish territories. However, the settling of land claims is outside of the scope of the coalition, and we encourage our government to negotiate a fair and equitable government-to-government settlement of the land claim. Thank you. So again, I thank each and every one of you for being here. I say stand together, stay strong, and we will bring the Riverview lands under public ownership forever. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Okay, so the coalition is made up of a group of people that have come together to do this. This is only phase one. Our first goal was to get our politicians involved, listen to us, and make some promises on the campaign trail. And our first politician actually is going to come up and speak to us. We have the Honourable Member of Parliament, Finn Donnelly. Please welcome him.
My name is Finn Donnelly. I'm the Member of Parliament for Port Moody, Coquitlam, Anmore, and Belcarra. And I have, even before I was a Member of Parliament 8 years ago as a City Councillor in Coquitlam, been working on Riverview to keep Riverview lands public for years. These lands are under threat since the hospital has officially been closed in 2012. And what I have been hearing loud and clear, the provincial government has a plan. They have a vision that they produced in 2015, and it includes market housing for these lands, along with economic uses. Now, they acknowledge they want to put mental health on these lands. They want to save some trees. We have a world-class arboretum on these lands. We have heritage buildings on these lands. And we have 100 years of public mental health on these lands. What I have heard over the years and in the last months is people want to keep these lands public. They do not want to see them privatized. They do not want to see market housing on these lands. That is going to take a sincere and concerted effort to send this provincial government a clear message. Now, we have an opportunity to do that on May 9th. And you're going to hear from some speakers and the party that they represent and what they are offering and promising, as was mentioned. But what I have heard loud and clear from the community is there's an opportunity here for a center of mental health excellence, a national center for mental health excellence. That is entirely possible. but it will take the will of people. It's great that we have a good turnout here. We have to keep that going right into May 9th and beyond to let the provincial government know what the people want. If they want to see a Centre for Mental Health Excellence, we need to push for that. I think there's so many partners that could be involved with this. I would love to work on encouraging the federal government to bring its resources to a Centre for Mental Health Excellence. They could absolutely work with the provincial government. But there are so many other partners that could be part of this, creating a centre. And we need to focus on so many mental health issues that affect people. 1 in 5 people. The reports say 1 in 5, 20% of Canadians are affected by a mental health issue. That's a huge and staggering number. In fact, some studies say that number's even higher. So that mental health focus could start with seniors, looking at Alzheimer's and dementia. It could look at youth, providing services and research for youth on anxiety and the focuses of all that the young people face today. Those are just 2. It could also include a centre for our veterans and our first responders, not just PTSD, which is a total need, but OSI. There's so much more that we could be doing to focus on the research needed for
Richard Stewart, everybody. Mayor of Coquitlam.
Thank you very much. It's so great to see passion for this site. I've lived all my life in the neighborhood right about a kilometer away from Riverview Hospital. And when we were growing up, this was a place where many of our neighbors worked, and certainly thousands of people were treated and housed, people that were suffering with mental illness. Mental illness is something that has touched our own family. My daughter has been very public about her mental health challenges. She's blogged and she's spoken and really tried to raise the profile of mental illness and the challenges of those with mental illness. And so our family has come to know some of the gaps more personally. And Coquitlam, as a community, has always, as Finn just said, has always embraced this facility, the largest mental health facility in the province. And Coquitlam doesn't have NIMBY about these kinds of things. There are lots of communities that do. So we're really proud that Coquitlam has played such an important role in the evolving treatment of mental health. This was built as an asylum. If you walk through it today, you will find the signs of an asylum. It was built in a different era for a different type of treatment. And as in the 50s and 60s we started to develop antipsychotic and psychiatric drugs, we were able to contemplate moving people back into their neighborhoods, back into their homes and their families, back into the community. And for many of the people from Riverview, that worked really well. But for many more, it didn't work. And those folks, many of them ended up on the downtown east side, self-medicating, first with alcohol and then with tougher drugs. So in today's context, in the context of a brand new drug that didn't exist, I'm not judging the folks that were involved in that. In fact, Coquitlam hired the former vice president of Riverview, Dr. John Higginbottom, to write a report for us contemplating where can we go from here. We had previously advocated strongly, very strongly over more than a decade, for the preservation of the Riverview site to be retained in public hands, to not be used for market housing, but rather to be used as much as possible for health care and mental health, a center of excellence for mental health. Dr. Higginbottom came back with a report that suggested that we could repurpose one or more of the buildings on site. He suggested Center Lawn, which has been closed for only about 5 years, still has the heat and lights on, and could we possibly use that to tackle in a large scale some of the challenges of opioid addictions. To their credit, the province did accept elements of that report. They opened 2 of the buildings here, Brookside and Hillside, for that very purpose, for treatment of mental health and addictions. and we've begun construction on a rebuild. This isn't new facilities, but it's purpose-built facilities for the Burnaby Center for Mental Health and Addictions, the Provincial Assessment Center, and the Maples Adolescent Treatment Center to be moved here in 2019. But we need to continue. So, I mean, the voices of this community have worked. They achieved commitments from the current government, for example, to protect the Arboretum. Now, I know some people say it's not a strong enough commitment, but the commitment is in writing that the Arboretum will be protected, the green space will be retained, or at least the equivalent amount of green space, and that is wonderful. We need to do more, though. We need to continue to advocate for mental health services. I believe that we can have a center of excellence for mental health and addictions right here on Riverview Hospital.
Thank you. And I should say, right away, please give yourselves a round of applause for being here today and organizing this event. This is a wonderful show of community support for an issue that could not be more important to this community and indeed this province. So I'm happy to say, first of all, because I know I'm going to keep this brief, that the BC Green Party 100% supports you and your initiative. 100%. We started as a grassroots party around issues that matter to us, and we've grown into a provincial political force that we hope to change the conversation in Victoria, and it's because of efforts like this. This is where democracy starts. This is where community matters. So speaking of communities, I don't come from British Columbia. I come from back east, all the way. And I come from people, I'm here now, it's okay. And I come from a family, and I come from a community, and I come from a culture, really, where mental health and addiction just isn't talked about, right? And my family has felt all those issues, and it just isn't talked about. And it happens to all of us. And it spreads like a silent wildfire, and it consumes communities. And that's why when you have a government that forces the decisions back onto communities to decide what kind of province do you want? Do you want healthy, vibrant societies, or a society that is sold off to the highest bidder to make more condos for more people that don't need them? Well, I just don't see how that can even happen in this province. People from other parts of this country, we look to British Columbia as a leader and a utopian and the jewel in the crown. And when I arrived out here, I was shocked at how it's governed. So I think, I don't want to get non-partisan today. I won't do that, but I do think the present government has a lot to answer for. And I hope however you cast your vote, whether it's today or whether it's on the day, May 9th, I hope you send a strong message to Victoria. These policies pitting communities against each other, people in the downtown east side from people out here, it ends this May. So I don't want to get too firebranded about it, but it gets my blood up. John Horgan's not the only Irishman in this race. But I will say this, the BC Green Party will stand behind everything you folks are standing here for today. We want to create, like our colleagues, a separate ministry for mental health in this province, because it's a separate problem. As the mayor said 100 years ago, we viewed it through a filter that was criminal almost, and we incarcerated people. Because if you think about problems as a hammer, you just start hitting nails. In mental health and addiction, it's its own separate problem that impacts families and communities uniquely. We recognize that. The NDP recognizes that. We're going to do something about it. So you can vote with good conscience on either one of those two issues. We are with you.
Come on up, Kofi. So I haven't actually met Kofi before, but he is from my alma mater at Douglas College here in Coquitlam. He is a clinical nurse specialist for the mental health program at St. Paul's Hospital as well, and he's a psychiatric nurse. And
Hello, good afternoon. First of all, I would like to make this announcement because whatever my comments are do not represent any organization I'm affiliated with. So I work with St. Paul's Hospital, Providence Healthcare, I work with Douglas College, and I've got some affiliation with Yale University in the States. My comments is one from my expert's opinion working in mental health and my passion for mental health. Over the last 10 years of working in British Columbia, let me backtrack a little bit. I've worked in about 4 continents. I've seen a lot of healthcare systems. Yeah. and I have a good understanding of what healthcare should look like. We have an opportunity of making healthcare in British Columbia, in Vancouver mainland, one of the best in the world. And we can only do that if we come together, we advocate, and keep letting our leaders know how important this is. It is anticipated that by the year 2020, it is a mental health disorder that is going to be a leading cause of death, depression. And if we are to live an optimal life, just in 3 years' time, we have to pay more attention to our mental health. Working in the system, I don't think we are doing enough. There's a huge opportunity for us to do enough. That is, come to bring that consensus together, develop research that will inform the care for the clients we currently deliver care to. And having this campus as it was before, we have over 100 years of providing care in this very campus. As I was reading through the history of Riverview and where we've come from and where we are today, it appears we are kind of sidetracking instead of us progressing upwards. There is an opportunity for us to do something about this. And I hope from our gathering today, we will have that discussion to promote mental health for all of us. Because what affects us affects our neighbor. I normally like talking about this when I make this example. When the pilot who was had some symptoms drove the plane down in Europe, that killed about 150 people. We have no idea the number of people his actions will have repercussions on. All the first respondents that attended to these kids, and even people who watched it, may have been traumatized by just looking at it. And we know from the studies that trauma leads or increases your risk of developing other, not just other mental health symptoms, but other chronic health problems like diabetes. So it befalls on us to do something now. Posterity will hold us accountable for what we did when the time came for us to speak up, to advocate for the best mental health system we can. We have the resources too.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see such a great turnout today. Hands up anyone who's coming to Riverview for the first time. Great. Well, come back now that you've been here, and the sun doesn't always shine at Riverview, but it's a wonderful place to come, and I encourage you to come back. And there's one thing about Riverview that we should never, ever forget, and that is that this site belongs to us. This land is our land. And we want to keep it that way. We've been working for 2 decades as a group to try to keep Riverview in public hands and to keep mental health care services at Riverview. It's been a very sad story to see Riverview become shuttered. Last winter, a perfectly usable building called Valley View was destroyed. Many of you may not know the Valley View building, but if you did know it, you would know that it was an ideal place to be providing care for people suffering from dementia. And we think it was a big mistake to have torn it down. So, the other thing that's so special about Riverview is the tree collection. The tree collection was started back by Dr. John Davison, who was the province's first botanist. He was brought to this province from Scotland, and one of his first goals was to perform an inventory of all the plants that grew in BC, because before he came, nobody knew. He enlisted the help of teachers throughout the province, and I bet we've got a few teachers here today, right? Yeah, so he worked with the teachers across the province to get an inventory done of all the plants that were here. And it's really his inspiration for the careful grouping of the trees. If you come here in the fall, you can see as they turn color that there was a great intention put into planning what trees were planted here. There's over 100 species of trees here, and they're from temperate zones all over the world. And you have to come here about a dozen times before you begin to appreciate the great thought that was put into where these trees were planted and how they could be displayed against each other in the fall. There's no doubt that Riverview is a very special place. We want to see mental health care restored. The city of Coquitlam, we know, supports having a center of excellence for mental health care at Riverview. That's what we would like to see come back here. And we know that we're dealing with a crisis in mental health care now, and we want outstanding mental health care services to be restored to this site.
The Riverview lands are a special place for all of us in the Tri-Cities and all of British Columbia. I didn't grow up in Coquitlam. I grew up on the other side of the river in Poco. In 1983, the government of the day, because on the other side of the river, that was also part of Riverview. That was the farm that supplied the fruit, the food, the vegetables, the dairy, the produce for the hospital here. They shut that farm down. They dispersed the best dairy herd in Western Canada to all over North America. And we lost a great asset. But it also galvanized people. It got me into politics. I ran for council in 1983 on a platform of saving Colony Farm and protecting Riverview. We were able to do that in 1995 with the creation of Colony Farm as a regional park.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here, and I am so thrilled to see all of you here today. Welcome to Coquitlam, Millardville. I'm Selina Robinson, and I'm the BC NDP candidate for this community. I'm also a family therapist, and I have spent years, well over 20 years as a family therapist, working in the area of addictions, youth addictions, working with people who live with depression and anxiety. So I come from a place of understanding people and working with people who live with mental illness and who struggle every day. And I became a politician because Finn Donnelly asked me to, way back in the day, because of the homelessness issue that was happening here in the Tri-Cities. And I got active, much like you are here being active. And before you knew it, I was on city council and working hard every day to make sure that we got a shelter built in the Tri-Cities, and we did, and we were successful because we worked on it every day. But it's not enough. Those people who are homeless, they need more than just a cot. They need more than just a mat on the ground. They need services, they need supports, and most of all, they need opportunities. And that's what this land represents. It's a land of opportunity. As the MLA for Coquitlam Millardville, I had the opportunity to speak in the legislature over and over and over again about these lands and about the opportunity that these lands represent to people who need help and who need support, who need all of us to help them heal. And these lands are part of that opportunity. So I know that some people did not want to get partisan, but we are in the middle of an election. And so with your indulgence, I need to get partisan. Because what's at risk right now is the opportunity to protect these lands. We are in the middle of an election where the BC Liberals and Christy Clark want to build market housing. We already have market housing on the Riverview lands. That whole area of Chilco was part of Riverview. Almost 200 acres have already been developed. We can't risk having any more of these lands being developed. We have to protect Riverview. When John Horgan became the leader of the BC NDP, the very first place he came to visit was here in Riverview. He came to Tree Fest, and he had a tour. I think the Gillespies gave him the tour. They're here somewhere. And he came up to me and he said, Selina, we have to protect these lands.
We're going to make sure that a BC NDP government protects these lands, keeps them in public hands, and keeps it as an opportunity for people who have mental health and and addictions issues. Now, the other thing that the BC NDP have put into their platform is to have a ministry dedicated for mental health and addictions.
As you can see, obviously, I'm wearing my heart today. It's not on my sleeve, but I think you get the idea. Our heart is in this. We value this place, this magical place. Just want to give a quick shout out to my coalition folks, my coalition partners here. Fantastic work, guys. I'm so very proud of you, and you've done a fantastic job. But especially, I want to acknowledge Nancy Furness. I'm not sure where Nancy is right now, but she is our fearless leader. There she is. Her energy, her strength, her tenacity has been unbelievable, and it's inspired us all to be just a little bit better. Thank you, Nancy. Well, I'm a horticulturalist by trade, so naturally, my affection for this arboretum, for these trees, is very strong. And so when we think about population density, we think about how busy it's getting in the Tri-Cities, when we think about the effects of climate change that are now upon us, we start to realize that our urban forests, our urban arboretums right here on Riverview start to play a very valuable role, and they're incredibly important. Now, most of us realize the benefits of trees. You know, we understand that they sequester carbon from the atmosphere, they take in carbon dioxide, and they give us in return oxygen, and they purify our air. The roots, of course, do a fantastic job with storm water retention, with soil erosion protection. And of course, the great big leafy canopies that they have act as an actual biological cooling system to mitigate the heat island effect we have in our cities. And of course, they also provide an incredible habitat for birds and all sorts of wildlife. And here on Riverview, we do have all sorts of wildlife. Talking to Don earlier, I'm not sure where he is, but you know, he pointed out to me today that the western toad has now come out of hibernation, right down in the ponds there. We have little treasures all over this area, all over this place. 88 species of birds, I believe they counted. There's 1,800 mature trees on this site. And we believe they're all worth protecting. So we know the value of trees, but almost more importantly than that, when we talk about mental health, we know that trees make us feel good. We know that trees can heal us. And the early visionaries here on Riverview who designed these gardens, who planted these trees, understood this. They understood the connection between mental health, mental wellness, and trees, gardens, parks, green spaces. And that's as true today as it was back in 1908. We need to revitalize Riverview. We need to save these trees, and we need to bring back mental health care, a modernized version of mental health care, and we need to make this a center of excellence for mental health once again. Now, I've often referred to the Riverview grounds as a national treasure, and I believe that it is. But make no mistake, the BC Liberal government, along with their $1,000 a plate bedfellows, yes, you know them, the big developers, the condo kings, they see a treasure as well. They see a treasure here. But the idea of their treasure, the treasure they seek, comes in the form of market housing and big profits. This government has come out and stated that the Riverview lands must have a break-even mandate. And what that means, folks, is that any restoration of these beautiful old historic buildings, any implementation or restoration of healthcare on the grounds, must be paid for by the land itself. Shame, absolutely shame. This government is willing to carve up this beautiful green sanctuary and sell it off to developers. Now I ask you, is this what we want for the Riverview lands? No. Are we going to support a government that puts profits before patients? No, we won't. No. Because like you, this grassroots coalition of common people have a different set of values than our government. We value heritage and the preservation and restoration of these incredible buildings.
If you wish to support this initiative, you can sign the online petition at the following location.